Good morning. Honey Harris with you. Forecast is calling for a slight chance of some afternoon showers. Highs are going to be in the mid-80s. And joining us right now in the studio to talk about this month's El Salon is Kurt Doty. Always good to see you, Kurt.
Hello. Happy to be here.
So this is going to be a really interesting, well, they're all very interesting, but this is a little more unique.
Yes, because we're going virtual, we're going online, we're live streaming. And the idea around that is I have far more speakers globally to tap into. And in this one, we're focusing on AI and film. I talk about film a lot. And all four of the guest speakers have been in my podcast before. So they're really interesting people in terms of what's happening in media, entertainment, technology, and AI, and how it's all coming together with AI or falling apart, actually, because I always talk about the pros and cons. So, yeah, we're excited.
I think that we mentioned this last month when we were talking about this, that there's a lot of actors in Hollywood who are freaked out about AI.
Yes, those were part of the union and guild negotiations. And now there is actually some movement around disclosing when companies use synthetic voices in radio or TV or gaming. They want to make sure that there's permission-based licenses to do that and identify it in the spots. So that's encouraging, right? And also beyond the actors, the studios. So Universal and Disney have sued Midjourney because they trained on their IP. And so that'll be interesting to see what happens with that, because some of the fines are $150,000 per instance. And so what are those implications? Does that mean if I made a Star Wars cartoon and published it, I'm going to get sued for $150,000? Maybe, because you shouldn't do that, right? Create your own IP outside of these platforms and then use the platforms to animate it, make it video, whatever. So there's a lot of tug of wars over IP rights, intellectual property. So that's something very interesting to watch. And one of our guests tomorrow night is Peter Chatty, who's a lawyer, entertainment lawyer, and he kind of bridges that gap between these negotiations between tech companies and the AI platforms. So he has a really interesting perspective, and he loves the opportunity, but he says we've got to do it ethically, legally, and establish some type of rules around all this stuff, because the government's not helping at all.
Kel Surprise, right?
Yeah.
Well, speaking of radio, we are running a couple of ads, and I don't know how to do this yet when I'm producing ads, but it's a made-up voice.
Yep.
I don't even understand how that works.
Well, it's probably originally recorded by a real voice artist, and then they've agreed to give their voice over to whatever AI platform, and there's many. And so there's a contract there. That person whose voice it is agreed to do it. It doesn't just come out of thin air. And it is kind of cool because you just type in a script, pick your voice, style, and you listen to samples, and then it does it. And it sounds very human because it is based on human. And it's not a robot voice, right? It's based on the real human voice. So as long as the companies that you're working with have those contracts in place, and what's important is that those same companies don't train off of what you've created with said voice, then that's an ethical approach to using synthetic media.
I don't know if you would know how this works, but when we're talking about radio commercials, so like if I would just use my own voice to put down the words and then find another voice instead of mine and switch it.
Well, no, you can actually make a clone of your voice. And I've done this. I have a clone of my voice. I don't use it a lot, but I play with all these tools and experiment. And so, yeah, you can make a clone of your own voice, and then that's your social contract with whatever platform. And you want to make sure that the platform that you, again, created on won't train on your voice, or all of a sudden there's a Honey Harris option in Speechify.com that is like, well, how did that get there? And how am I monetizing? So those are terms and conditions that you got to look at when you're signing up for these platforms. So be aware, eyes wide open. It's cool technology. That virtual or synthetic Honey Harris, that could come to play very nicely for you as long as you're getting paid, right, for some additional usage of your voice, right? It isn't just you're left out of it, right? You're left out of the process. So it's also important that companies also have their own AI policies of how to deal with this specific situation, both to let the public know how they're treating AI and how they use AI, truth and disclosure, but also what's that contract with their employees in terms of this is how we want to use it. You can participate or not, but this is what we want to do. We're trying to do it ethically and legally, and they've done the homework, but that needs to be stated in a policy.
So when you said that the government's not helping at all, so this is really up to companies to take this on themselves.
At this point, yes. Yeah, unfortunately, we have an administration that actually in the big, beautiful bill that's up, they've actually have a section in there that is taking away the rights of states to govern AI. Right now, California is a leading state in terms of establishing laws, and they've established laws and procedures. So don't count on the government. It needs to be companies, and it needs to be employees rising up to say, hey, what's our AI policy? And I'm helping companies write those policies because it absolutely needs to happen.
Thank you. And I love that you give both sides to the issue, because we need all the information we can get, honestly.
Yes, absolutely. And not only do people need to become AI literate, it's like, what are all these buzzwords, these acronyms that are happening? What's an LLM? It's important to know the ramifications and opportunities and think outside of the box in terms of how you're kind of envisioning and creating certain tech stacks and workflows that utilize this technology in the ethical and legal way to really empower the workforce, you individually, and kind of become like a super human being because you're using these tools.
Well, so tomorrow night's El Salon is going to be very interesting because you are talking about the film industry. Do you think you'll be doing more of these online?
Well, this is my first test, so we'll see how it goes. But we are recording it, so it will be available, so everyone can watch it at some point. Trying to figure out the timing of that. But, our four speakers are Andy Beach and Mark Turner. They're former Microsoft executives, and now they're consultants in the M&E space. Peter Chade I talked about, and then Scott Ross is a legend in visual effects. He's retired now and really opinionated in terms of kind of being a Debbie Downer in terms of he knows the effect it's going to have on certainly the visual effects community globally. So it'll be very interesting, a lot of point, counterpoint. And then I also want to mention our July event, which is a workshop here in Santa Fe at the Hotel Santa Fe. That is July 19th. It's from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It's a one-day workshop with me. So it's really extremely value priced because if you did a one-on-one consulting with me, that can get expensive. And this is literally half the price of that for a full day. So there's really no reason why people shouldn't come. I'm going to feed people with some great food, and we're going to talk about and demo and show AI tools all day. So it'll be really cool.
Oh, and people need to sign up for that, I imagine.
They need to sign up actually for both things. And you can do that at realmiq.com/events.
And do they need to get tickets for the workshop? Yes.
Yes. And early bird pricing is over tomorrow. And so it's really good to check out and sign up within the next 24 hours if you want to take advantage of that.
And the website again is
realmiq.com/events, realmiq.com/events.
And tomorrow, the virtual meeting will be at 6 o'clock. The best thing to do is to go to the website, and then you can get the link and pay to get in on it.
Yep. That's the process.
Excellent. Okay. And don't forget, once again, the one-day workshop will be July 19th at Hotel Santa Fe with Kurt Doty. Kurt, it's always great to have you here and talk about this.
Well, I appreciate you having me and appreciate the opportunities, and it's a great partnership. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I'll see you next month.
Okay.
We'll be back with more in a moment.